bring up the wrestling analogy stuff again. That's what we call in pro wrestling hot shotting, using up all your good ideas instead of pacing them out. And what happens is that your audience is burned out as a result because they have a seriously high expectation that you just can't follow it. You can't. There's no way. You should have saved that crap for the last year of the 5-year origin, because that would have been so much more badass. And it's the one time you would have things directly affect from the flashbacks affect the present day. And, I've gone on and on about this before in the flashback video that I did previously. It would have been a lot better. But in all fairness to the Slade thing, it could have been an issue of the DC embargo bullshit. Because I guess there's rumors that Slade's gonna be in the Suicide Squad movie that's coming out in the summer, and I mean, at least unlike Marvel, who's trying to pass off the TV shows as also being part of their cinematic universe, that's a fucking joke. I can't believe people actually buy into that bullshit, but they don't, right? At least DC's honest in saying that the TV shows are separate from the movies that they're doing. But they have this weird thing where they don't want like the same characters in the TV shows at the same time that they're also in a movie. Which, I mean, come on. I mean, give the audience some credit. Once again, these people not giving their audience credit. Don't they realize that the people watching these movies every summer aren't? Well, they are, but the people giving friggin' Batman and Superman movies hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office, it's not translating onto the small screen. Not all those people are going from fucking watching, Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, whatever. They're not gonna go and watch Arrow, go home and watch Arrow. Probably not. Probably maybe 1 in fucking 80 of them will, if that. So I don't know. I think these embargoes, they just stifle the creativity. I I understand the Batman Superman stuff. That stuff's off limits because it's too big, and I get it. And I think that actually, and I said this before ad nauseum. I actually think it forces the writers of Arrow and these other shows, these smaller DC shows, like uh, Flash. We're getting Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl. Constantine that was canceled, whatever, to be more creative. But it's just the thing. Like if you had Slade and Captain Boomerang on Arrow previously, and you went out of your way not to kill them, implying that they'll be back in some capacity, and now they're just off limits, you may never see them again. It seems stupid. It's just dumb. So yeah. So yeah, and just another thing with just like the pacing. So you know how I said how they did that subtle thing with the villain reveal, like they put little hints, like little clues, with who the villain was and stuff, real subtle clues. That's what they should have did with the murder mystery, where it probably turned out that what they should have did was make the whoever was responsible for the just for the sake of argument, whoever was responsible for the murder, and this is probably what you were thinking anyway, would end up being the big bad for the season. So it kind of work like season 2 kind of, in that you would have like little clues about the murder mystery from every like episode to episode. And eventually, they would be nice logical clues, and then you can go back when it's revealed who it is. You'd be like, oh, okay, it all makes sense now. That's not what we got. Instead, we got like a lot of meandering. Like they kind of did a little investigation stuff, and but then it's mostly abruptly dropped by episode 5 for the most part. And then for some reason, Felicity at the end of the Flash crossover episode, the first one that's on Flash, she decides that we need to check out this Arrow. Like she didn't think of that previously. Check the Arrow for the DNA, and Or they didn't bother to look at Merlin's flight records before when they should have looked into them in episode 4. It's just, and then all we got was a red herring with Roy. Okay, stupid red herring thing. I'd rather they just kept investigating. They found out more information. They found clues from episode to episode. That would have been more that would have been better. That would have been more enjoyable instead of them just inserting filler episodes. Plus, it would make the filler episodes seem more meaningful. Just like how I mentioned in season 2, where they had filler episodes, but there's still stuff with the overarching plot, so it still enticed you to watch every episode despite there being filler material. I mean, just come on, guys. Again, boring pedestrian decisions with the writing. So the whole the whole linchpin, I guess you could say, or I don't know, one of the linchpins of Merlin's big convoluted fucking joke of an evil scheme is these mind control drugs. And I didn't mention this when I was talking about the episode. I talked about what happened because I didn't bother to talk about what happened in the flashbacks of the episode. But the mind control drugs just so happen to show up in the flashbacks for this episode, the Hong Kong flashbacks. And this is where Oliver is first introduced to these mind control drugs. So I'm thinking that this was kind of the writer's way of kind of explaining why when Merlin talks about mind control drugs and shit, he isn't, doing a double face palm and being like, "Oh, really? Mind control drugs, Merlin?" Like the rest of the audience. So, he's already familiar with how these things work. But unfortunately, we as the audience don't know how these mind control drugs work. How do you take these mind control drugs? Do you force feed them? Do you mix them in people's drinks? Is it like the Miracle thing or Vertigo where you stab it into someone's injected? Okay. How long does this mind control work? Does it work is it on and off? How do you give can you give them, these people you're mind controlling, complicated orders, or do they just are they just simple tasks? Cause I got a list of things that they could have done with the mind control drugs that Merlin could have done with them. That would have been made his plan a lot more easier and increased the probability of success. Cause remember, having Oliver go and fight Ra's al Ghul, what the fuck? Why would Merlin believe that Oliver could defeat Ra's al Ghul? I mentioned this before. First time that Merlin and Oliver fought, Merlin beat the shit out of Oliver. The second time they fought, it was Deagle and Oliver versus Merlin, and Merlin just barely lost. Barely. Green Owl just barely eked out a victory there. Why does Merlin think that Oliver could suddenly beat Ra's al Ghul, who's supposedly more powerful than both of them? And he's supposed to be this huge badass that's basically unstoppable as far as they know. No one's ever defeated this guy so far, and he's God knows how old or whatever. Because they're doing comic book Ra's al Ghul here with Lazarus Pit and everything. Why? And again, it goes back to what I said last video. It seems these writers have no concept of people's skill levels and how realistic it would be if you put someone like Thea against Sarah and have Thea win. It looks fucking ridiculous. It looks absolutely fucking ridiculous. Stuff like this matters, guys. You can't just say someone can defeat someone just because you say so. So, basically the show's just telling us, the writers are telling us that Oliver actually has a shot at defeating Ra's al Ghul. Right? Even though there's no reason to believe that, but the writers are just lazy and they're telling, not showing. If they really wanted to make Oliver badass enough to defeat Ra's al Ghul, they shouldn't have built up Ra's al Ghul as such a badass. They should have just made him just like any other villain, or they should have built up Green Arrow more this season, where he was getting victories over like really badass villains, like these first 8 episodes. Okay, now he's gonna take on Ra's al Ghul, so maybe he has a shot, right? Like, it's, again, going back to the pro wrestling thing, you build people up by the victories that they get. You give them momentum. It helps make it credible when you want someone like Green Arrow to fight a Ra's al Ghul. Why does Merlin believe this? It's like, why does he believe that Oliver has any more of a chance than Merlin himself would? Why wouldn't Merlin and Oliver team up to fight Ra's al Ghul? Why don't they double team him? Something like, and I guess they actually get into that in the second half of the season. That notion's actually brought up, and it's like, well, why didn't you think of that in the first place? Why? Like, there's no reason for Merlin to believe that. So anyway, getting back to mind control drugs. So, I mean, depending on how they worked, which we don't really know how they work from this episode, so as an audience, you should be questioning that. There's better things he could have done with the drugs, depending on how they worked. He could have got a random League of Assassins guy to kill to kill Ra's al Ghul when he was least suspecting it. He could have mind controlled a League member and just had the League guy, like, pull out a sword or whatever the fuck out of nowhere and chop his head off, Highlander style, when he was least suspecting it. Because apparently, as long as people aren't suspecting you to pull out a weapon out of hammer space, then you could fucking kill anybody in this universe. If we're gonna go by the Thea Sarah thing. Again, why didn't he just, instead of this convoluted thing where he mind controlled Thea to blackmail Oliver into fighting Ra's al Ghul, why didn't he just use the mind control drugs on Oliver himself and go fight Ra's al Ghul? Okay. Why did it, since, I went into this big spiel about how we're not sure if Oliver could actually defeat Ra's al Ghul, and why is Merlin so confident that he could? Why did he blackmail Diggle or Lila or someone in Argus, or mind control Diggle, Lila, someone in Argus, fucking Amanda Waller? I don't care, right? Have them get a drone from Argus, because, Amanda Waller loves her drone strikes. We fucking went over that last season. Why do he somehow use the mind control drugs to get someone from Argus to commandeer a drone and fucking use a drone strike to blow up the fucking League's headquarters when Ra's al Ghul isn't suspecting it? Because you can drop a bomb on the guy, that's damn sure to kill him. Never duel by combat with a Green Arrow, which I think the fucking name's appropriate. Green. He's pretty fucking green compared to fucking Ra's al Ghul. Against fucking Green Arrow, the reliability factor here, guys. I mean, come on. Drop a bomb on the motherfucker and kill him. A lot more reliable. Okay, last episode, we had a Flash crossover. Remember? Flash exists in the same universe. They don't want to acknowledge that in this episode because that would fuck up their contrived bullshit writing. But remember, Flash exists in this universe. Why didn't Merlin use the mind control drugs on Flash? If not Flash, why didn't he just get an evil metahuman to kill Ra's al Ghul? Because there's metahumans now, remember? Remember, guys? Remember? Oh, conveniently forgot. Oh, we forgot Flash exists in this universe. Get a fucking metahuman. You don't have to mind control him. Merlin apparently has money and resources, though they never explain what they are. He just had a lot of money saved up or something. Maybe he could have just paid off one of these fucking, metahumans. Pay off Captain Cold. He's still out there. Have him use his cold gun. Freeze fucking Ra's al Ghul to death. All you have to do is, you know where the League headquarters is. Get on your private jet and just fucking drop him in the League headquarters, start freezing people. Fucking A, guys.